You don't have to be a professional photographer to have a bomb Instagram. What's up, everybody? For those of you guys who do not know me, my name is Sydney Baker Green. I'm an international wedding photojournalist, and I have recently created a free education community for creative entrepreneurs and photographers so that they can learn the tips and tricks to leverage themselves with respect to marketing, managing a business, and looking like a professional brand. Recently, I've been getting a lot of questions after launching my new social media marketing guide, which is completely free, by the way. Link is in the description below. And one of the most common questions I've gotten is, how important is an Instagram theme, and how do you have a professional looking Instagram if you aren't a professional photographer? Now, if there is one thing I am known for, it is how good my Instagram looks. I am not even going to lie. And yes, I have spent upwards of $10,000 to $15,000 on my equipment for photography. However, sometimes the best camera you have is the camera that's readily available and in your hand, and for most people that is their cell phone. So today we are going to focus simply on the editing aspect, which is a huge portion of making a bomb Instagram. Now yes, if you take a great photo and you edit it just right, then yes, it's going to be 10 times better. But we can even take some photos that may not be the best and make them look at least 5 times better. So before we dive in, I'm just going to say I use one app when I edit my cell phone photos for Instagram, and that is Vsco. It allows me not only to create a similar look to the photos that I edit on my computer, but it is probably one of the most versatile apps you can ever find on the App Store. The link for Vsco is in the description down below. Now that you know the app that I use, let's see what this app does. So let's get that magic cell phone up. Awesome, so here we are on the home screen of my cell phone. And if we go over here, we will see the app called Vsco. So here you can see that I have some square photos down here at the bottom. Exactly 6 of them. We're gonna make these photos up here that don't have that nice, pretty looking theme to them match each one of those, even though they're taken completely in different lighting situations, so on and so forth. So the key to the theme, though, with me, is the fact that I use the best light, and that is natural light. So when you light your Instagram photos, with your cell phone specifically too, you want to be using natural light because that is the best light for your camera sensor. It's going to make everything pop, and it's going to give it nice contrast. And you can see that with this theme in particular, I'm all about the contrasty colors, and I'm about bright photos. Let's hop into the first photo which we're going to be editing, which is my styled desk. Now right away, the one thing you'll notice is all of these filters at the bottom. Now you can click and go through like I used to and see which one really fits your style. Which photo do you want your Instagram to represent? I mean, which filter is the best for your Instagram? That's exactly what I meant. Can't even think today. Some of the popular filters that I like are C1. E3 is really nice, however, sometimes it's a little bit warm for me, and that's actually my favorites. I'll show you over there. So I love A7, this black and white, which is Vsco X exclusive. So you get all, if you pay the monthly subscription for Vsco, you can get all of these filters, but C7, C8, E2, HB2, X1, and A7 are all free Vsco filters. So for my Instagram aesthetic, what I love completely is HB2. Now, you may think, oh, that actually made the image a little bit uglier, Sydney. Well, selecting the filter is just the first part. Now let's go in and tweak it. So the first thing that I am going to do is I'm gonna go to the Hue Saturation and Luminescence. So that's HSL. And basically it allows you to change the hue of a color. So how orange or aqua your greens are gonna be, your saturation, how vibrant they're gonna be, and the luminescence, how bright they're gonna be. So one thing I love is I love myself some aqua succulents, and I'm gonna increase that green so it's a little bit more aqua. I also noticed they have some yellows in here too, which got desaturated. So let me go ahead and up that and see if I can get a gold that I actually like. I like that gold that we have going on right there. And cool, so right there, I got my pop of color that I like. And I'm actually just gonna cool off this photo just a smidge to get that nice cool white. I love cool whites in my photo. And then I noticed that that little notepad was a little bit tilted, so I'm just gonna straighten that up right there. And even though it makes the cell phone slightly tilted, I don't think anyone could really tell. I'm gonna add a little bit more of contrast, maybe just 1.2. And bump the exposure up. Let's see, how do I like that? And that's another thing you guys can really do that I recommend. Go through and just move all these sliders around when you're first starting. Try to see what you like. You'll get to know what the app does and what each slider does, and then you become a pro. Honestly, I didn't have $500 to do a photography course, so that is what I did even in Lightroom, a professional editing software. Went around and played with the sliders. So at the end of all of this, I am going to crop in a square because that's how my Instagram feed is going to look, and I want to see exactly how this photo is going to look next to another photo in Instagram. But as I cropped, I can tell that this still is tilted a little more than I'd like it. So I'm gonna come over here, try to just straighten that out, and I think that is more, I feel like that's more level. So boom. Now we have another photo that just fits right in that Instagram feed. You can see that right there, except I do want to make it just a smidge brighter and poppier. So that's going to just up that brightness just a little bit. Boom, photo number 1 down. Let's go over to photo number 2. Now here is one that, again, you can play around with filters, especially with sunsets, but if you want a consistent Instagram theme and you want it to look professional, you want to use the same type of filter each time. You want to use the same filter each time. I can't stress that enough. So we're gonna level out this photo. That's the first thing I want to do, is I want to get that horizon level. You don't want tilted horizons unless that's your thing. And the first thing I noticed already by that filter, it's done so much for me, but that photo is not sharp at all. So I just probably made every photographer scream by throwing the sharpness all the way up. Nice thing about Vsco in particular is it does a really good job of sharpening. I could not do that in Lightroom and get away with it, my professional editing software. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to add contrast because I really like how dark those clouds are. Contrast simply makes your shadows darker and your highlights brighter. But I do not want bright highlights in this photo. I want to be able to see that even exposure of the sunset. Now if you like this look, go for it. But what I'm going to go do is I'm going to click that highlights button. I'm going to drag it all the way up to save those tones. I want to save those highlight tones. Boom, look at that difference. That looks, just with a few clicks, like a professional photo. Now you can go ahead and play with the temperature. I don't really like the warmer temperature, which would be the correct one for these clouds. This is more how my eyes saw it, so that's how I'm going to leave it. Now we can go in and mess with the hues, luminescence of some things, and get like a redder, a little bit more red out of that, and a little bit more, you know, orange. I actually don't like that orangier look, that dark orange look, and I'm not gonna mess around with these because it's just gonna make my blues purple, and I don't need that. So I'm not gonna mess around with blues. We don't have any purples in here, unfortunately, otherwise I was gonna say you could really make the sunset look cool. So again, I think that's where I want to leave it. Now, as you can see, there's a grid here. When I take photos that are landscape, I use the rule of thirds. So you can see there's the top third, there's the middle portion, and then there's the bottom third. I take that bottom third line and place it on my horizon most of the time. Sometimes the top third comes in handy, depending on how I shot the photo. And you can also do it where you put it in a quadrant too, where you can put it with the golden ratio, and now your wingtip is in that golden ratio and your photo is composed almost perfectly. It'd be more so like this. But because I do not, that's not what I'm going for in this photo, I'm just gonna drag it right back down to the horizon and add, save. Boom, another photo to fit right into the Instagram theme. Let's keep going. On to the donuts, but first coffee. You know, my family tried to wake me up this morning and start talking to me, like asking me all types of complicated questions before I had my morning coffee. I I couldn't deal. Okay, let's go right in here. Now, this photo is particularly bright, and I know I had a hard time editing this one, so there might be a few steps going back and adjusting, so let's start right in. I'm gonna, again, use my same filter. You use your same filter as you would. And then what I noticed it did is it kind of took out the saturation of my donuts. So I'm gonna do one or two things. I'm gonna add contrast. I'm gonna save highlights. There we go. So right then and there, save those highlights. Cool it down a smidge for those whites. Hue Saturation Luminescence over here. Sorry, I have really bad nasal allergies. I put this plant in the background, over there. I put that plant in the background because we want this video to look nice. And it is messing up my allergies so bad. So sorry if I keep rubbing my nose. Again, now we're gonna go into the saturation, and we're just gonna up that orange saturation just a bit because we don't want to make the entire photo warmer, and we don't want to change the saturation of everything. And I feel like these donuts are just a little bit tilted, just a little bit, like they're kind of falling over, and I know that's just because of the way I took the photo. And if you guys are wondering how I got these nice white backgrounds, because no, my house is not this bright. I don't have any white walls in my house, actually. I bought some foam board from Walmart, which came to about 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, yep. 4 pieces, made a box that had a little opening on the very end, and I face that opening towards a window, get all that natural light in, and create these beautiful backgrounds. But I will show you guys exactly how to do that in another video. Okay, I feel like I like that a little bit more. I'm gonna try to get this. Cool, so this is just a simple donut photo. Again, it doesn't have to be a lot of editing. Sometimes you're just adding the filter for the aesthetic of the theme. And I can already tell I still don't like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and increase my contrast even more. Nope, I'm not even gonna increase my contrast even more. Okay, so what I'm gonna do instead is there's this great button back here that's undo. I'm gonna undo that contrast increase because I didn't remember where I put it at first. I'm gonna lower the exposure just a bit. And although that's not as bright as I like it, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna give my highlights a little bit more. That's still poppy. That is perfect. Cool. Now, let's go to this one. So again, you can see how each filter affects the photo. But for me, HB2 is where it's at. Now the first thing I noticed that my sand is blue. And that's just because the sun was really orange and it wanted to get a neutral white. What I want to do is I want it to look like the way I saw it in real life. So now it just looks kind of, well, it doesn't look as nice as it did before. It looks kind of gray and ugh. So let's go into the Hue Saturation Luminescence. Let's bring the saturation back in those blues. Cool, let's bring the saturation back in those oranges. Actually, let's go here too and increase the global saturation first. There we go. I'm liking that. Let's go ahead and increase the contrast just a smidge. Let's go ahead and save some of those highlights. Like the way that's looking. Now I stopped my oranges because I knew when I did what I was going to do with the saturation, I was going to make them a little overbearing. So I'm going to come back and reduce the saturation of the oranges. You can see that effect that it has. I did not like how orange that was for the sake of the theme. Leave that like that. And now I'm noticing my sand is still a little bit blue, so we're going to come back here one more time. And again, we're just gonna bring those oranges down just a smidge. And is there anything else I really want to do with this photo? I don't think there is. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to that crop. And I kind of want the horizon in the middle. I could do up here. but I think it gets rid of a lot of that cool contrasty light down there, so I'm gonna post just this. Crop it right down here in the bottom quadrant, and I guess I could kind of do this so that it's in the top right there. Cool, that's a better composed photo. So right there, another one that goes into the Instagram theme. Let me go back one more time because I did notice something compared to the other ones. It's just a little bit darker. So I'm gonna brighten that up a bit. So let's say we get a photo like this one. You can apply the filter to it, but one thing I don't like that happens is that the skin tones are all mucky. And the first thing I would do if that happened would be to play around with the temperature and the tint to try to get a more natural look. But you can see, even when she kind of has a natural skin tone, he is just purple. He is purple, and there is no amount of, if I desaturate the purples, then he looks dead. And we don't want that. So what do you do when you get a photo that's really nice, but the colors just aren't working for the theme? You go black and white. Now, my favorite black and white filter is going to be, it's actually a real film emulation. It's KT32, but because that's not free, we're gonna use Tri-X or X1. And that's also a real film emulation. And I am going to increase that sharpness a little bit right here. I'm gonna add that contrast. And then you can tell the first thing I did was I increased the exposure. Boom. And this is just for my Instagram, that I took this photo when I was doing an engagement party. And I'm gonna put their eyes on that top third when I crop it into a square so that it fits into the rest of them. Now you can see how this has already came along. This theme, this aesthetic, has already came along for Instagram. But you may realize that you have a photo that has absolutely nothing going for it at all. I've highlighted which photo I'm talking about. Look at that. It's just kind of bland. I took it from my airplane. My camera lens is already broken on my phone, and it just looks bland. So again, you can see these filters do a little bit for it, but it just kind of changes it. So I'm gonna bring in some definition by increasing that contrast. I put that all the way up because it definitely needed it. And then I'm gonna play with the temperature just a smidge so that that wing actually looks like the color of the wing. And honestly, I think that's really all I want to do with it. Right then and there, that is a huge difference in a photo. And I'll kind of put this in the middle. Actually, I did like how that blue in the sky was there. And I will kind of level that out too. Boom! Another photo right into the Instagram theme. Now let's say you take a selfie. Now, again, I used natural light for this selfie. It was in a Starbucks and I was facing the window, and I know that either one of these are gonna be on fleek. Even the black and whites look pretty good. But I want to really use that same filter again because I just love the way it does my skin tones. And I could play around with the contrast, but with my skin being dark, that doesn't always work. If you have lighter skin, or if you are Caucasian, you can get away with that. I don't like when my skin, the highlights on my skin get too punchy as it would if I increase the contrast a smidge. It's just too punchy on my skin. I like that natural looking skin tone. And you can also play around with skin tones with selfies in this slider. So I can make myself more magenta or more green, but I actually like that a little bit more like that. Yep, so I'm gonna do that. And you could go into the shadows tint if you'd like to cool off that background, because it was really warm in the beginning. So I'm just gonna do it just enough so that it makes the background even. That will help it fit into the aesthetic. I'm gonna straighten it out just a smidge. and I am going to crop with that top third on my eye level. Just so, and when you get ready to post to Instagram, you can go back to your 4x5 and post the photo, but I like to put it in the square format because it allows me to see how it will look on Instagram with the white borders in between, because you can see when it's not in square, it's big like that, and that's not how it's going to look on Instagram. So let's go ahead and get to this last photo real quick. And you can see here, we're going to go right back into HB2, my favorite filter. But what that did is it really took away some of the color from my sushi. And I don't necessarily like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase contrast first and foremost, as always, to get those poppy colors. I love how all those colors are just popping now, but they're still not vibrant. I'm using terms that I don't even use in photography. Forgive me if you are a photographer watching this cringing. And now I'm gonna go in and I'm going to, that wasabi is actually not green, it is actually yellow. And so I am going to make it green because I like the way that looks. And I'm going to find all the colors in there and just individually increase the saturation of them. So we have the oranges in the sushi. What other colors do we have in here? And that already increased the color of the wine that I had. Also, pro tip for this photo, I would have used marble contact paper. I just didn't have it, so it would have looked like I had a marble countertop. And, I don't know if we have any reds in there, but just in case we do, I'm going to increase those. And look, already a beautiful photo that looks like it should be on some type of magazine. I'm going to go here and increase the saturation just a bit. Nope, not even, it wasn't saturation, it was exposure. I'm gonna see how I like the look of that first. So I'm gonna crop it the way that I want it to be cropped. Save. How does that look compared to my other photo? How does that look compared to my other photos? Do I like it? Do I like it? I feel like the whites could be a little bit whiter. So, because I'm doing that, I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to decrease the luminescence of all these colors to bring them back to where we want them. Not too dark. We're just going to correct them so we can get the colors we want out of that. Awesome, and I'm gonna also cool this down just a touch. There we go, now that's fitting into the Instagram theme a little bit more. And so guys, that is exactly how I would do it. You have seen all those photos magically come into an Instagram theme. They were not all taken on the same camera. Some of them were taken with my drone. Actually, only one of them was taken with my drone. The rest of them were taken completely with my cell phone camera. So you can see it doesn't matter what camera you're using, it more so matters the filters that you choose to use and making sure you have a consistent editing style. I hope this video was informative. I hope it gave you some insight into my editing process, and I hope it showed you that you don't have to have the greatest camera in the world. You don't have to have $15,000 worth of gear, fancy computers, and editing software to make a good looking Instagram. And also, if you are a creative entrepreneur, an aspiring business owner, or a photographer, or would like some free marketing tips and education on how I do what I do and have ran a successful business, be sure to go and check out my new community for free education, www.sydneybakergreen.com/chasinglight. The link to that is in the description down below. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. It feels so good to be back on YouTube, and I am going to start creating content that I like, especially after these YouTube policy changes. I want to inspire people because I feel like a lot of people have, you know, it's kind of settled down, but some people still may be upset because this was their favorite platform. So let's keep climbing together. As always, it's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Live, love, laugh, keep climbing, dream on, and stay fabulous. Peace out.